Hi there, everybody. My name is Michael from Zonat, and I'm happy to join this WordCamp with all of you. So thank you for watching me right now. In this speech, I'm going to introduce you about our revolutionary WordPress static site generator, and I share you the secret of making your WordPress websites faster, more secure, and cheaper to host. So let's go. So I'm not sure if everybody already know what serverless WordPress is, but basically this is the technology, how it's called, how we make our websites very fast and easy, um, or at least easy to scale and cheaper to host. So um, let me tell you a bit more about serverless WordPress. And serverless is perhaps not the most fortunate word because you still need a server to make your site work. Static WordPress is maybe more on the point in terms of using the right term. So the basic idea of serverless or headless or WordPress to static is basically that instead of generating every page on the fly each time a visitor wants to see it, you convert your WordPress website to static HTML just once and you serve that static clone of your website multiple times. So what basically means is that headless WordPress is involving a two-step process. And the first step is converting your site to static HTML. That can be just static HTML, GS, CSS. And the second part of serverless WordPress is serving this static clone to your visitors instead of your regular website. And the cool thing about serverless WordPress websites is that you can still work your WordPress website pretty normally. All you need, or I mean, you can still add plugins, you can create teams or work in installing different teams, you can work in the WP admin, you can change stuff, write posts, you can basically do everything as you are normally also doing in the normal WordPress environment. The only difference is that once you are done with your WordPress website, you will then convert this static or this site into static HTML, and then you will deploy it to a server. And there are pros and cons about the whole approach, and I will guide you slowly through the whole process, and then you can see yourself how easy it is um, to create a serverless WordPress website. So for everybody that's not yet on the same page as we are, why should you get a static WordPress website? So they have a lot of advantages. When I first started building websites in the early 2000s, I was using front page and all my websites were pretty much static. And that's why I often describe moving back static as coming full circle. A static website has several significant advantages. The first one is speed. Static websites are way faster than normal websites because all the pages are already pre-rendered and there is no underlying processor servers. There is no database query, no PHP processing. Your pages can get quickly served to the user. The other part is security because your standard dynamic website, it has a very big attack surface. Every layer from Apache to MySQL to every plugin is potentially vulnerable, and it's really hard to make all those holes plugged. All the time when, yeah, there is like an update, you need to do that update to make sure you're safe, but you are not sure of that. And that's basically all. There's always something that you need to keep in mind with using a website with a database. The other part was scalability, and that's basically supporting a high traffic website is very costly and complicated. And even when you do that successfully, if there is a spike in traffic, it can seriously slow down a website or it can cause issues. It can throw in error pages, and static websites can scale effortlessly. Some of the times in our own websites, when we got into the press and we have a traffic increase, then we often don't feel anything at all because we're only talking about static HTML. It's not something that really loads our server that much. And the other fun thing is there is no management or maintenance with static websites. That means that with a dynamic website, you often need to do updates, upgrades, security tweaks, speed optimizations, and you pretty much always work on improving your WordPress website. And of course, I would not say that if you have a static WordPress website, you don't need to do that anymore, but at least you don't need to work about security tweaks. You don't need to work about upgrades because your WordPress itself is somewhere else at a secure local server, and only the HTML is at your public server. So there's no WP admin that people can log into. So why should you worry about updating your database or updating your WordPress version if that's only because of some security tweaks? So this is pretty cool. So then for the question I often get is, who needs static WordPress websites anyway? And I find it very interesting because some of the people tell me I'm always using dynamic websites. Is it okay for me to use static websites? And well, let me explain you how static WordPress websites can come in very handy. So for freelancers and agency, you may encounter, if you are a freelancer, you may encounter clients that are very not very interested in updating the websites or even publishing content. So after you hand over the keys of the new website, maybe they only need a simple business card website. They cannot be bothered of doing anything due to lack of time or staff. So you don't want them to leave anything, chance or risk of getting the site broken into when there is a new vulnerability discovered or something. So in this scenario, converting a static or a site to a serverless WordPress website makes sense because you don't need to maintain it anymore for this client, and probably this client will also not maintain this website himself. Um, what's also very nice is security or websites that really have a high importance of security. So in case there are certain cases and clients we have, and they can't afford the website to broken into or messed with, and this can be government websites. But most of the governments, I'm pretty sure they live on their own standards. Best example, for instance, is your local school. I'm pretty sure they don't want that their website will be hacked or populated with maybe inappropriate or obscene content because some of the teenagers were not maybe a bit naughty and were hacking into the website trying to see if they can change maybe something. This often happened in the past because often the teacher that was doing IT was also maintaining the computer network and also installing a Joomla or WordPress website, and often was like doing 100 different things at the same time. And I can remember that often those websites were really, really, really bad secured or a lack of maintenance on those. So the thing with once a website will be hacked or will be maybe populated with inappropriate or obscene content is that even through the situation like that can be explained afterwards, the bad impression often remains, and definitely with the times that we value GDPR, privacy, customer data and stuff like that. So you don't want that your customer data will be on the street. So I mean, yeah, static websites, they don't have a database to hack into, so those are less security risks. um, Now I would say sites with complex designs. And what I mean with those websites are that we are living in the age of the page builder. It's not common to handle a bulk of site design in the builder itself. And instead of just a simple framework as we used to work with in the past. And I mean, you can do very, very cool stuff with Elementor, don't get me wrong. And definitely if you add some cool plugins there, you can really make your website look extra great. But the only problem then is that every time your website will be loading, it will be a bit heavy, and this will be reflected in performance. There you either need to update to a heavy VPS or dedicated maybe, or some other cloud hosting. I mean, you cannot have a website like that on a shared server. So it will be definitely reflected in performance. And I would say moving to a static website will be a quick fix because your website will already be pre-rendered. So You don't have to worry about this complex design being rendered every time a visitor visits your website. It's already rendered on the server. Client only gets the HTML that the browser should read. So definitely makes sense. Also, it's something that that I already explained. The next topic about the freelancers and agencies. It's basically the same thing with websites that are running the courses, and often those are websites that are maybe for an event or a government-founded project or an archive. Some of the websites you maybe want to only remain active for legal reasons, just to show people what happened, like an event, and keeping those websites alive in WordPress often creates problems because you need to maintain those websites. You still need to do updates. I mean, if you have an old website that is outdated, there will be an exploit, and before you know it, it's basically just a sitting duck waiting to get slaughtered. So I would say moving those to a static WordPress website means that you only build the website once, and after that you don't need to care. You don't care about those websites anymore. You only, of course, care about renewing the domain and hosting. And also something that we often see is really interested. Those are, I don't know if we at the moment have people watching that are creating demos, or I mean that are creating themes or plugins. They often also have demo websites. And if you have a few themes, hosting can become very expensive, and you also need to update those themes regularly with every WordPress website, and you need to reinstall those, and this maybe can take some time. It definitely makes sense to convert those into static HTML. Also, the fun part there is that once people are watching your template, it will also load very quickly, and people would rather buy a template on a demo website that is loading quickly than a slow loading theme. So definitely very interesting. Um, then how can you go serverless yourself? Well, basically, there are two different methods of going serverless. The first one is the DIY method, and the other one is the platform method. The DIY is great for hobbyists. It's probably the most fun to do if you like technology and stuff. I guess most of the WordPress users would like this DIY as well. You can use some plugins, and you can use Google Cloud or Amazon, or you can use Gatsby or Brave. Gatsby is like a JavaScript framework that helps you to build websites with React. And you can use Brave, and it's a tool that migrates existing WordPress sites into a serverless site powered on AWS. I mean, each of them, they involve different level of DIY-ness, so you really have to find something that fits your skills. But this is great for like hobbies, but I would go if at least in a more professional environment, if you have paying clients, you should consider of moving into a platform method. In a platform, you can basically, you don't need to be tech savvy. Everything is already done for you. You don't need to worry about updates. You can sleep at night knowing that everything is still running. With a DIY method, it's often you use different plugins to try to build something that's similar to a platform. So, I mean, DIY can be fun, but I would say just pay a few bucks a month and you have a full platform that handles all the stuff for you, and also make sure that everything keeps working also with future updates. So it's totally up to you. But we created a platform, and our platform is called FLATsite. And with FLATsite, we allow you to create a lot of different static WordPress websites, and we are building it into also making sure that not only creating it to static WordPress websites, we also created a few plugins that allows you to convert dynamic functions into a more static function. So what we did, for instance, we created a static search plugin that is basically, the essence of that is that normally on a search function of WordPress, it requires a database, and our search is refactored and is using a JSON file. With that, with any updates, the JSON file will be updated as well, and you don't need a database anymore to do your WordPress searches. So we're slowly converting dynamic functions of WordPress into a static workaround function. But I show you more about that later. Let me give you a brief introduction about FLATsite in a cool video, and then I will explain you a bit more the history and how you can utilize FLATsite in your business. So I would say have a nice look.
Sign up at FLATsite.com and see how easy you can begin. With FLATsite, you can convert any WordPress site into a static HTML site, resulting in ultra-fast page load speeds and secured like Fort Knox. All you need to do for setup is create your users, connect FLATsite to any FTP or SFTP, and install WordPress on the instance. FLATsite allows you to build and easily maintain even more websites with less work, and you save tons on hosting. And don't worry, with FLATsite, you can still use most of your WordPress themes, plugins, and tools. We've made many integrations with all of the top plugin creators. It gives the browser only what it needs: HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, instead of access to the WordPress login page and database. This creates tougher security, eliminating WordPress vulnerabilities and the chances of WordPress sites getting hacked with no maintenance or update issues. FLATsite makes web development and management seem like a piece of cake. Join us at FLATsite.com today.
Okay, so this was FLATsite in less than a minute. So let me explain you a little bit how we came along with FLATsite. And probably, as everybody knows, WordPress is the most popular CMS in the world, and we are also very enthusiastic WordPress users. But while our company got more WordPress websites to manage, we were also facing a lot of problems. First off, it was really hard to manage multiple WordPress websites individually. And secondly, WordPress required a lot of resources, which could slow down the WordPress websites. Security, expensive hosting fees, and limitation of the teamwork and workflow were also part of the problems that we had when we were scaling out from just a few WordPress websites to hundreds of WordPress websites. So basically, we came up with an ID, and our ID was basically to give the browser only what it needs, and that is HTML, CSS, and JavaScript instead of a heavy database and PHP. So we removed everything that can be hacked or can slow down our WordPress websites. So we came up with a tool that converted WordPress into HTML files and then push those HTML files into FTP. All this in just one click in FLATsite. So we optimize our workflow. As our background as developers, of course, we want to make things easy. So quick brief introduction how FLATsite works. First off, you can install and create a secure WordPress site in FLATsite. Then you can export all the sites as flat HTML. For that, we are using Git. And then we can deploy the WordPress website anywhere you want on any hosting. So you can FLATsite itself, basically, it has an engine, and in the engine, you can basically install different WordPress websites. There you have the dynamic functions, and within FLATsite, you can work on your WordPress. But then outside the platform, you can you can connect it to any FTP account with different hosting companies, and you can then only push HTML to those hosting companies. That's the whole idea about FLATsite. So it's not only a WordPress manager where you can manage multiple WordPress websites, but you can also push them to static HTML. Fun part here is that, and I think that's really important, is that if you are doing an update, we're using, of course, Git. That means that if you are doing an update, it looks what pages are affected, where is the code change, and it will only override those existing pages that should be overwritten and not the complete website. So it will also save you tons of bandwidth. So we solved all our problems. So let me guide you quickly how FLATsite solved the problems. First off, we created one single dashboard. Basically, what we see often is that a lot of companies that are scaling out WordPress websites, they still keep the password in Excel files. Even the intern has access to all the websites. You have different hosting panels, so our employees needed to log into different hosting panels, and it was a terrible mess. So the first thing we did, we created just one dashboard where you can access all your websites. Secondly, all the necessary resources and the database were removed from the live website, so you get a faster load speed. So FLATsite is much faster compared to general websites, and with FLATsite you never ever have to depend on a traditional WordPress database ever again on your live website. So the static sites they use a serverless framework. Again, this process of WordPress static site is separated from the WordPress dashboard, and the static sites are of course then ultra fast and perfect for SEO, because often we have a lot of SEO agencies that like FLATsite because it's really speeds up the performance on the live websites instead of a dynamic website. Also, the problem is that often, yeah, when you create a website on FLATsite, your WordPress backend is hidden from the would-be hackers and internet bots. And instead of that, visitors are greeted with a static clone of your existing WordPress website. So you get your own private gateway WordPress through a secure portal, and this eliminates the chances of malicious attacks, meaning that you don't need to worry about those hackers anymore. Um, yeah, your WordPress database is safe, secured somewhere else at a different server than your live website. And the problem that we often had was the overpaying of website hosting, sorry. So WordPress itself is recommending the brands like Bluehost, DreamHost, and SiteGround. And for a small business, if you only have one website, it's a great solution. Even I think SiteGround is a bit expensive, but it's okay. I mean, if your business is generating more than $20 in revenue, then at least you have an ROI pretty quick. But if you have multiple websites and you want to have them hosted on different IP addresses and on different subnets, different accounts, it can become very expensive. Of course, there are different ways of managing it, but I would say that if you would go comparing from these prices and you would calculate this to your clients, it's quite expensive. Fun thing with FLATsite is that you can basically like easily can have 25 websites on just a shared hosting account, as long as you can point enough domains to that shared hosting account. That means that with hosting you only pay maybe, I don't know, $5 a month instead of, well, let's say 100 200 euros a month. Also, the other problem that we had is that we had a inefficient workflow. And what we did basically, you can now include all the team members with different roles, and you get the most effective workflow for maintaining all your WordPress websites. So there are three roles. There's admin, site admin, and editor. So the admin has access to the whole flat site backend, content editing, etc. The site admin only has access to the backend, and editors can only edit content, and they cannot publish something on the live website. Why did we do this? Well, the problem that we mainly had was that we didn't want to give our interns or virtual assistants or content writer access to a complete website, but only certain functions. And once we had like different websites, we needed to give different logins to everybody. And you cannot, of course, give like one login for all the different websites, because you should have like different passwords for every website. So what we did, we created one dashboard, and you create like a user one time with the rights that you want to have, and this you can then basically delegate to all the websites in FLATsite. So you only need to create a user one time instead of every time on every website that you install. So it will definitely save a lot of time. It's also very easy to deploy. So with the staging environment, you can check your updates before deploying. So this is basically how the staging environment looks like. Here you have your dashboard with all your websites. You can see the version of WordPress, and you can, with a single sign-on, log in the front end or back end. And once you're done with deploying, or at least once you're done with editing, you can see the login or the URL here. You can then basically deploy and push it to a live URL. The website will, of course, look 100% the same because it's just HTML and CSS. So you don't need to worry about something that maybe works locally but not on your live server. I would say it's often 99.9% also works exactly the same on another FTP. So that's pretty cool because you don't need to worry about PHP libraries that are not supported whatsoever. It's just plain simple HTML and CSS and JavaScript. Before we're gonna finish the presentation, we created a video of 3.5 minutes by a YouTube influencer in the WordPress scene, and he basically explains in like 3 minutes a quick walkthrough through a complete system on how to set up a WordPress website, how to create some users, and actually push this website to a live URL. So yeah, let's go quickly through this video, and then later we also maybe have some times for Q&As.
Today we'll be creating a static WordPress site using the FLATsite static site generator. After sign-in, you are directed to the dashboard. On the dashboard, you could see your websites, servers, and users you add, and you can manage them by clicking the buttons. On the navbar, local websites is to all the websites, while administration is for the admins to edit servers, users, and teams. Click on Users to create users. In this setup, we've chosen to have only one super admin who can do both website editing and live deployments. This works great in smaller organizations. Add name of the admin, email. Select admin as role, and then enter password. Then click Save. If you're working in a larger organization, you probably want your editors or admins limited to perform certain functions. For instance, your editors can be restricted to contribute only new posts, and only the admin can publish the new site and approve updates. Let's start by creating a connection to the external server where the site will be published once finished. Click View Servers. Click Create Server. Then add name, protocol, hostname, port, path. Then enter your credentials. Then click Save. Now you see your server's configuration. You can also test the connection through Test Connection button. Next, we're going to create a WordPress instance on the FLATsite platform. Click View Website. Then click Create Website. You can link the publishing server to your website. Once you deploy your website, it'll be pushed to the server via FTP or SFTP. Add the name of your website or project here. Add the URL of the site here as soon as it's published. Now we'll select our preferred WordPress language and localization. We'll go with English in this example, but we have over 135 languages available for you to choose from. Here is the standalone page option. You can choose specific standalone files like CSS, JS, or WordPress pages that you want to export outside the WordPress system. Go ahead and press Save. The WordPress site will generate onto your FLATsite instance. At this stage, you'll be redirected to the website you just created. You can click FLATsite or Local Websites to see the WordPress site you just added and start editing your WordPress site right away. Click Backend and you can create new pages or make any changes on the existing pages on WordPress. Now let's create a new page. It's just like on WordPress. After building your page, go back to the FLATsite admin of your instance and choose Export. Enter a description of your changes. This way you can keep track of every update. Once the site is exported, it creates a static version locally so you can preview it before pushing it to the live website. If you find any mistakes after the export, you can fix it and export it again until you have your desired result. Now let's approve the update and test the connection. We need to make sure the FTP is connected to FLATsite. Finally, it's time to deploy the website to publish it online. Press Deploy. Now the site is online, and you can check the live website. It's that easy.
Yes, it's that easy. So I hope I inspired you guys of maybe trying FLATsite out. We have a 7 days trial, and definitely we value all the comments and the feedback we get from our users to make our product better and better every day. So of course, for everybody of this WordCamp, we created a special discount, and we give up 50% off on any FLATsite plan on the first year. And you can basically use the code. We have a QR code. So if you go to this URL on the QR code, then basically you get 50% off any FLATsite plan the first year. Yeah, so thank you guys. If you have any questions, feel free to book a demo with me. I will be available in the chat. You can always reach out to me. You can connect me on LinkedIn, and I would love to tell you more about how we create static WordPress websites in FLATsite. So I would say enjoy WordCamp and have a lot of fun. Thank you and stay safe.